All right, what's up, y'all, and welcome back to Teaching Tuesday. We did take a little summer hiatus there, so sorry to all my devout fans out there, but we are back, and we'll be posting every Tuesday. As you might notice, we have a little bit of a different setup here, and we're also going to do a little bit of a different lesson just to start off the new launch here. As you can see, I don't have a guitar, so we're going to be just doing a little bit of a verbal lesson today. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and I finally decided to do it, and we're going to talk about how to learn a tune this week. So this is something that I'm pretty passionate about, something that I like to talk about a lot, something that I learned a lot about at Juilliard when I first moved to New York, and a few of my teachers who really gave me some great lessons in that vein were Ben Wolf and the late Harold Mayburn. And so, without any further ado, let's get right into it. So we have two types of tunes that you're generally learning in the jazz vein. Of course, there are different kinds of songs that you can learn, but these are the main two types, and those are American songbook standards, from the likes of George Gershwin, Cole Porter, etc. And then you have what I like to call a jazz standard, or like a jazz composition, something maybe by Kenny Dorham or Sonny Rollins, something like that, or even like Benny Goodman, something older. But those are kind of two distinct categories. So we'll start with the latter, because I think that's a lot more straightforward. It's a lot simpler. So when you learn a song by Benny Goodman or Sonny Rollins, whatever, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. There's gonna be a definitive recording. Usually, you can hear how the original composer plays the melody, plays the changes, and you can play it pretty similarly to that, and it's going to sound good. And you can obviously take some liberties and expand upon that, but the original version, recorded version, is going to be a pretty good starting place for that. Of course, you can check out some sheet music too, but I would say like recordings, and especially the original recordings, are going to kind of be the go-to for that. Now, when you get into American Songbook, it's going to get a lot more complicated because for a few different reasons. First of all, a lot of the time you're not going to have an official recording of that song, and even if you do, you're not really going to want to play it exactly like they played it. You're not going to want to play Stardust maybe the original way that Hoagy Carmichael played it. I mean, maybe you will, but there's going to be a lot of extra changes in there. There's going to be a lot of very old sounding chords that you might like, but a lot of jazz musicians, if you go to a jam session, or if you're playing on a gig, they're going to be playing it a lot different from that original recording, if there even is one, which most of the time you won't even be able to find anything of the sort, because it's usually, we're talking about songs from a musical, songs from the 30s, the 20s, so it gets a little more complicated. So I'm going to cite a few different ways to learn those tunes. So the best way to learn a tune like that is from the sheet music. So we have these kind of like condensed piano scores that we have a lot of books that have that kind of sheet music, and this is an example of one. It's a Cole Porter sheet music book. It has a lot of his tunes in them. So I have like a big, if you can see my bookcase over here, I have a shelf where I have like 10 or 15 of those books. You can get them on Amazon. They're fairly cheap. So I would recommend that as a starting place. Now, when we get into that, it gets a little more complicated too, because, well, first of all, the melody is going to be very straightforward. So we're going to be able to extract the melody exactly from that music, and that's going to be great. You're going to get the original melody. But when it comes to the changes, it's going to be kind of similar to what I said before. You're going to have a lot of kind of old sounding changes. You're going to have like 4 chords in a measure sometimes, kind of like some figured bass. You're going to want to simplify it. You're going to want to create your own jazzier version. One great thing that Ben Wolf said to me was that there's no the changes. And what he meant by that is you're so far from the original changes when you're playing one of these kinds of songs that there's no really right way to do it. So basically, you have to use a combination of like listening to the other people that you're playing with and kind of interpreting the original changes or interpreting the song from different recordings. So there's not going to be like one definitive way to play it. So you have to be a little flexible with that. But I would recommend, if you can, accessing the original sheet music to at least get a starting point there. You can also, like I said, I might not have all the songs when I get these books. So you can pretty much get access to any song online if you type in, sheet music for whatever song you're trying to get. You can pretty much get access to any original sheet music. It's going to kind of add up. It's going to start to get expensive. Like you're looking at like $4 or $5 per sheet music per song. So another resource for that is a friend of mine, a colleague of mine named Greg Chen. I think the website is he made a website where he has like a database of a lot of songs, American songbook tunes that are his interpretation of the original changes, and he's very good at exactly what I'm talking about, interpreting these songs and developing, jazzier changes on them. And so I think it's like gregorychen.com. I'll link it in below once I look it up. That's a good way. He doesn't have all. It's a ongoing database. It's getting bigger and bigger. So hopefully we'll have every tune there at some point. Now it's a little bit limited, but we can. You can also like add, different people can like add to it and edit it. So it's a really cool thing he's got going on there. Okay. So that's 3 different ways to do it. And then obviously we have going to different recordings for, I guess we're talking about changes now. And that's going to be pretty important in terms of changes, because if you're looking to, check out a tune like, I don't know, If I Were a Bell or something like that, obviously, there's a definitive Miles Davis recording, which when most people are going to play that tune, they're going to be playing, heavily influenced by that recording. So it is really important to check out the recordings and to see what other jazz musicians, how they've interpreted the original changes or how they've interpreted that tune. Now, you're going to notice a lot of variation. A lot of musicians are going to be playing a lot of different changes, sometimes a lot of similar changes, and it's a really cool exercise, a really cool like exploration to check out what different people play and kind of come up with changes that you might like, and then also kind of take note of the other changes and be aware of those when you're playing with other people. So it's kind of like a really fun, back and forth sort of never-ending exploration. I also want to say, so in terms of getting the melody, if you don't have access to the sheet music, you can listen to recordings of it. But if anybody who listens to jazz knows that like Miles Davis, Sarah Vaughan, Bill Evans, a lot of the greats that we listen to, they're not going to be singing the melody verbatim or playing the melody verbatim. They're going to be taking a lot of liberties. So the one great piece of information that Harold Mayburn bestowed on me that I wanted to note is he said there's 3 people that will sing the melody straight. He said Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald, and Frank Sinatra. Now, I do want to put a slight asterisk, a caveat on that, and that is when he said that, he meant basically like the definitive studio recordings of those people singing the song. So if you listen to Nat King Cole Trio or like some live recording of Ella, she's going to be going off doing some loose interpretation. But if you're talking about like, Nat King Cole Capitol recordings with a big band, any of the Ella Fitzgerald songbook records with a big band, it's going to be pretty straight. And a lot of the time you have the verses on that too. So that's a really good reference. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. You have, you got the sheet music, gregchen.com, recordings. Oh, yeah, sorry. This is something that I will begrudgingly mention. We have the real book. So the reason why I'm not citing the real book as like the number one gospel, even though a lot of people have for a few decades now, is that it's not very accurate. So I would recommend checking out the real book and seeing what they have. Most of the time, the melodies are pretty accurate, but when it comes to changes, they're basically doing what I said you should do. They're kind of making a loose interpretation based on recordings, based on the sheet music. Probably not the sheet music because it's kind of a little bit sloppy in my opinion. And then you also have the iReal Pro, which is kind of derivative of the real book, which just has the changes, not the melody. So I would say for a real book, about 95% accuracy in terms of melody. Changes are very different than the original changes, and they are kind of very like it's a stray from the original and from a lot of the times anything that I would play. So definitely go beyond doing that. But anyways, yeah, we have original sheet music, gregchen.com, recordings, and the real book. That should get you started in terms of learning and interpreting tunes. And that's a really, really important part of being a jazz musician, internalizing this music. So anyways, hope you guys found this helpful. Definitely like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And hope, I'll see you guys